The Underground, Ideas into Action presents an Underground Chat, where we bring the underground conversation to you. Today's chat, Opportunity in Adversity, with Samantha Paxson, Chief Experience Officer at Co-op Financial Services.
Hi, how are
Hi.
you?
Good.
It's great to see you. I know how busy you are working on all of the Think initiatives and everything that's taking place to continue to be a thought leader within the industry. And Samantha, I wanted to start there. You're the creator of Think, and you've definitely deepened it beyond an event once a year. It's really now a thought process that continues. And so I wanted to just have you tell us about how it's activating and what you see as the pandemic shifted what we did and how you went to virtual, and then what impresses you the most about where we are today.
Well, going to virtual it solved a need. I mean, our credit unions need to engage with us, and they need to understand where payments is going. How should they be investing in the coming year? How should they be looking at serving their client base today? And they are really scrambling for information and insights on how to best do that. So things like Think and things like just engaging with your external vendors and partners like Co-op is important to giving you the right information to make the decisions that you need to be making right now. So it was a no-brainer for us to have our Think event as a place to do that. And people in our industry love to engage. They really want to see what other credit unions are doing. They want to better understand how other credit unions are solving for the same challenges that they're having. They're all having the challenge of remote work, remote service, contactless service, self-service, and trying to make sure that their service levels remain high, that their product implementation and their service delivery, that what they're selling to members is remaining high, and that you don't see a break in that, and that they're able to pivot the way that they need to. So it was really important for us to have the event and for us to continue engaging with our client base to make sure that they have those insights and that ability to connect with one another. So I have been impressed the way the industry has responded. I think we've all really sought to pivot quickly and to provide the kind of insights and skill sets that our clients are looking for. They're just hungry for. And that's the good thing about credit unions. I'm always impressed. Credit unions share, they collaborate, they cooperate, and Co-op is on the cusp of its 40th anniversary or 40th year of cooperating with credit unions and kind of being that catalyst for sharing. So it's very opportune that something like this happens, like a pandemic, and we need to find ways of coming together to properly provide credit unions and an ability to compete.
I think that is interesting. I didn't realize 40 years of cooperation. That's an amazing stat. I know.
Crazy.
And it was born out of a need for ATMs and technology. And I think in some ways what we're experiencing right now is also going to be born out of need. The whole idea of virtual engagement, the whole idea of how we're going to communicate in the future. And both of us have talked about the fact that we have seen the sense of urgency and the kind of warp speed that everybody did with their transition. And I'm now starting to see that discussion about what does that mean going forward? How are we going to be a no-touch society in the sense of our virtual engagement? Are we going to be, all high tech? And so, I have my thoughts on that, and I'm just curious how you feel about it. I mean, are we going to be high tech, no touch? Are we going to be high tech hybrid? What do you think is going to happen as we go forward?
I think we're going to be high tech and high touch, just in the way that our consumers expect. So all of the trends that we were talking about before COVID happened, they've accelerated. So we were in a place where we were needing to digitally engage with our members, that they're expecting that, and they're taking on new use cases, new external providers like fintech companies. They feel very comfortable using those types of financial institutions and those types of relationships. The consumer expects that you know them. They expect that they should be able to do everything from buying the car to checking their credit score to understanding how they're doing on their retirement, all from one provider, so that they can have a good sense of how they're performing in their financial life. But they want to do it on their terms. And so I think we're in a place where COVID has rapidly expanded the trends and accelerated those trends that we had already been seeing. And it's also made them essential. I mean, I think we all can agree that contactless cards are no longer a nice to have. There's something that you just expect to have. You expect to be able to also engage with your credit union 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and be able to have clear transparency and control into your payments and your account-based financial life, no matter what. So it all needs to be accessible from the phone. And these were all trends that were there before. You want to be able to move money. You want to be able to pay for things in an instant, invisible, and free way. You want to be able to have your anybody you do business with understand you, pre-populate your information into any new service that you are engaging in, and you want control. I mean, really, that transparency and control into all of the things that you do with an organization needs to be there. The end consumer is empowered, and they need to be empowered right now because they can't walk into your branch so freely as they used to. And they have a lot of things taking up their time, like back-to-back Zoom calls, and soon educating their children, and trying to juggle all of these things that they don't probably have the time during the typical business hours to be able to manage the daily activities of managing their life. And that's where we can really have an edge in having being able to serve members in that way today.
And I think that what you've identified is really going to be the next level of engagement. You talk about, you're an expert in, the member experience and the just the overall service experience. And I just want to talk a little bit as a follow-up to what you said about seamlessness. You mentioned that we want to be able to do it, and we only have potentially a short period of time. I know my level of tolerance is starting to become less because, and maybe some of this is the Amazon, Prime experience, but the expectation that we can go immediately, ask for something, it's delivered, sometimes within hours, sometimes within a short period of time. So we've got a bar being set for that. As you've indicated, that seamless experience, that touch experience. So any additional thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's interesting. We did some work at the onset of the pandemic, really wondering what the stages were going to be of response with business. And what we found was that when the pandemic first happened, and we were all kind of getting used to this, consumers gave businesses a break. Like if they were not quite open or ready or meeting the expectation, we all understood because we were all in this together. And that was in the kind of when we were all in the acceptance phase. Like, okay, we're in this new environment. This is what is going to happen to our lives, and this is how we do business with all of the different companies and brands in our lives. Next, as organizations absorbed all of this change, the patience level of the end consumer was going to be shorter and thinner. And I think that's what you're describing right now. What the research told us, the work that we did with EY, was that the consult that they were giving their clients was that you better get your act together and you better do it quickly, because in the fall and in the winter, the consumer patience level and their expectations are going to be higher, and they will not have the same grace that they had at the beginning of the pandemic with experience flubs and hours being off or anything being kind of bumpy or lumpy in the way that we're delivering. They expect it to be that Amazon experience. And I think that's kind of that same thought of that the trends that we were seeing about being, oh, these are 3 to 5 years out. Those trends are now. Everything that you've gone to conferences and heard about over the last couple of years about what's happening with digital transformation, that has happened. And our clients have said more change has happened in the last 6 months than in the last 5 years, and that we're seeing that they're able to make change faster. But I think the important message in that is that it's imperative to meet end member expectations to make that change. We need to do it because they just will expect and will abandon the relationship if you're not meeting them where they are. If you can't process a loan in the time that they expect, if you can't answer their question or do it in a way that they could find it easily through your app, they don't have the same fraud experience in their debit and credit card, if they don't have the same the experience designed in a way that just removes every bit of friction, they're going to be more willing to shop inside their phone in the comfort of their home office for a provider that will. It's that quick.
That quick.
I think it's something we all know. I think it's something we all know, but
yeah, I think that we do.
Faster.
I mean, we've all intellectually known that this is coming, and for some of us that travel all the time and are out in a different environment all the time, it's been a reality for me and for others for a significant amount of time. I don't remember when the last time I actually went into a branch because of just my hours. But when I look at what I consider to be the technology mindset, it goes a little deeper than that. It's a cultural change. It potentially is job description changes. It's the idea of how much should you spend on technology. Like one of the things we're doing with our boards and our consulting is talking to them about, okay, when you take a look at your budget going forward, how much is budgeted for maintaining what you have and updating, and then increasing the capability and going into enhancements and so on. And are you spending as much on automation as you spend on building the branch or, maintaining the branch? So boards are going to need to think at that level too, that mindset, that culture. What are your thoughts there?
I think those are great questions to be asking, because so often boards and executive teams, they make decisions based on their current P&L. And so they're looking backwards on loan performance, and like the way that they make their money is through loans. And so that's where the money that is being spent typically goes. The part where we kind of need to reframe is really looking from the inside out. How do we look from the outside in? So if we're making decisions on where to invest and where to make choices about infrastructure spend, technology spend, data spend, things that seem really expensive and things that seem like, how do they produce the typical revenue that we're used to seeing? These are becoming base table stakes for the way a member would engage with you that would then trickle to that or lead to that lending capability. So I know you and I have talked about the primary financial relationship, that engagement through payments or through your digital channels or through any other use case besides borrow is how that end member is gauging if you can support them in their financial life or not. So it is how they are assessing you. And if you don't invest in that infrastructure, that technology, that ability to service a member and meet them where they are, you won't be able to get the day-to-day P&L that you're seeing today will slowly erode because you haven't been investing as what we like to call a platform business, a financial ecosystem that surrounds the member based on every need that they would have in their financial life. And you have to make that accessible to them and understand them in a way that they want to engage. And I think a lot of credit unions see this, but it is difficult to make the argument to boards who are really looking for the quick in-year revenue turn. And these are multi-year investments that we're making as an industry. They're multi-year, long game investments that enable us as a financial relationship to ensure that we can continue to add new use cases, new ways of engaging with our end members in our financial ecosystem so that we can surround them with that relationship. And also make sure that if they are spending, saving, borrowing, investing, paying, that and protecting, we can't, for security is a major reason to be investing in technology and infrastructure, that we can make sure that we're not overly saturated in the borrow use case, but that we're really surrounding the member in the totality of their financial life to deliver on our mission of helping them make the best financial choices to achieve the best, most optimal financial wellness.
Agreed. And the message to the boards out there is that if we're going to invest in technology, it's not, oh, good, we invested in technology, now let's move on. It's going to be a line item forevermore. And what we saw with the pandemic was the need, a crisis, an event that drove this movement. Now it's a question of, can we propel that into the future? And I was thinking of your son, and I was thinking about the kids in my life, and they're now virtually being educated. So in addition to the access that they have, now they see it as an educational tool as well. So we've been talking about millennials, we've been talking about future generations for a while. We're going to see a generation now that starts their financial relationship immediately through their phone. I mean, that's really all they're going to know. So it's taking us in a little bit of a different direction, but I was thinking about there is no going back. I mean, we truly have a future generation that this is all they'll know.
That's true. And I think it goes so deeply. You're bringing up very human needs. This is just the plain and simple expectation of every demographic within your credit union. And yes, I have an 8-year-old son, almost 9, can't believe it. But yeah, he expects to do everything through his iPad and his phone, and that will be forevermore. So what's interesting, though, is you're making investment decisions. We have to continually think through the run cost you talk about this is going to be there forevermore. What does the run cost look? What will it take to run and operate our credit unions in this new digital world as we're building new functionality and new technology and new ways of engaging members? How do we shift the way that we run, the way that we operationalize our business, and redesign our member engagement and our back office ops to make sure our back end or inside meets our outside? That if we're saying we want to design to meet where the next generation of members expects to do business with us, we want to design ourselves for that. There's a whole massive process under the water or behind that needs to really be reframed and redesigned, and probably rethought through from an expense perspective about how that can be more efficient, more effective, can be, I know credit unions are really assessing the skill sets that they need to be able to deliver in this way. It's causing us to really have this, as I said the last time you and I spoke, this pause to say, is how we've been doing things the right way? And how can we optimize all of the ways that we've been behaving so that we can capture this opportunity that's right in front of us? Because our hearts are always in the right place. We have the opportunity to make sure that our behaviors match where our hearts are. So it's a good time. I think we can't be, I know you and I talked, like, it's time to shake the funk off of this, like to not be doomsday about this, that this is a time where credit unions can really capture market share because they are meeting the human need of the member right now. But they have to demonstrate that they can meet the human need at the level that they expect.
And I think you've just integrated what I think is one of the most important points of the credit union journey. And that's the idea that it's not going to take away from our culture of help, our culture, our mission, our purpose base. It's just going to be redesigned. And the heart that we put into what we're doing today will take it beyond the transaction and the challenge. As you know, the Underground Voice is all about us kind of saying, how do we drive this communication even further? I mean, here's where we are, and here's what we're going to do going forward. And so that spirit and mission of a credit union, with that in mind, just how do we then capture the if you will, the next generation, whatever that looks like, to keep these habits, keep the savings, do the financial education? I just want your thoughts about how this intersects with the mission.
I think we have to go back. We have to stay true to who we've been. Like, I think that's where we do hang our hat on our history, that the reason why we started was because there was no other option for end consumers who were facing tough economic prospects. And this is true today. And we have such an opportunity through our stories to demonstrate our authenticity and to show today's consumer, you have a choice. There are other options for you. And they are unique, and they're filled with heart and humanity, and they're about people getting ahead in their financial lives. And so the more that we demonstrate that the stories of what has happened over the last, even the last 6 months, I think it really, that honesty and that authenticity will really grab people. I've had friends tell me, like, wow, my credit union moved faster. This credit union that I went to apply for a PPP loan, they went faster than Chase. It was so amazing, and they really cared. I've never experienced anything like that before. People just don't think that a financial institution cares. And so I don't think in the middle of digitization, I don't think we abandon our mission and values. I think we triple down on those and demonstrate the head and the heart of what we do. If we do that and we execute that the right way, and that sounds fluffy and it sounds like something like, yeah, that's okay. But I think if we can storytell and demonstrate through our behaviors and our actions how we're helping people while delivering world-class digital engagement and financial services solutions, we will win the market every time.
100%. And I think that when you look at virtual engagement and you realize that you and I, even when we go to conferences, we have little moments that we can spend together, but it's usually, running here, running there. The intimacy that can be achieved through this virtual engagement is another opportunity. If we can get the back office and if we can get the things you've talked about streamlined and more efficient, then we use our people's time to connect both in person, but also in a virtual, digital way. So I think that's fabulous. So if you were to put a couple of ideas into action, what do you think credit unions need to do? Or what do you think I need to do? Your thoughts.
We've been a broken record on this all year. I mean, we really believe payments is the path to growth. We know lending makes up the lion's share of the income of a credit union, but payments are the feeder to those to lending, and payments is the day-to-day engagement of the member with the credit union. So investing and really understanding how your members are engaging with you. What is the journey of the member across your credit union, not just within individual product silos, but what should their journey be? Do you understand how they pass through the ins and outs and the different solutions that you provide? Do you understand the relationship between your solutions across what they're trying to do and across what you provide? So that pay, bend, borrow, save, invest, those things, how do those align with the solutions that you're offering? And then how do you make it so easy for the end member to experience those solutions across their financial life? And are there any opportunities for connection? And I think there's several credit unions that are doing this really well. I know I always talk about my friends at Connecta. They're right down the street from me. And the way that they have layered member communications with their solutions, with empathy and need, makes me think like I am missing out. Like I need to get over there or just engage with them to do more with them. When you can find that magic connection between how you're communicating, how you're engaging, and how you're solving your members' problems to really wrap this lovely blanket of wellness around them. Not a blanket right now because it's hot in California. But I think you're really demonstrating the credit union difference in a very modern way. That's why we always espouse payments behave as an ecosystem, not a loose collection of silos, because your members see you as a holistic, aggregated view of their financial life. They can go get fragmented services from many different providers. So we've got to be best in class within those individual use cases. And if we can bring them together, you're helping to bring about the wellness that members really need right now. So, and keep looking at the digital channels, keep looking at ways to serve members in a contactless digital environment and have data flow through all of it. It's the interconnection of our solutions that really makes them a lot more useful and dynamic for the end user.
Well, I believe in your overall theme this year about activate, and so in my sessions with executive teams leading up to board sessions this year, I've been talking about we've stayed away from the concept, if you will, as an industry of driving income. It's more about driving service. But I also believe as we move into the future, being able to drive income so that we can have a social purpose, we can maintain the work we do in our communities and so on. And payments and cards and the ability for convenience can be a means to do that. So I think that when you look at it, you were talking about kind of the warm and fuzzy. The reality is it's actually a balance sheet bottom line issue as well. It's the fact that in order for us to do the right thing, okay, it has to also be good business. And that good business entails activating strategies that are specific to helping the member experience, but also helping the credit union be able to do what its mission is, its social purpose. So that's fabulous.
I think you have a really great point there that I think typically we've kind of seen community engagement and purpose or financial literacy be something that's kind of an off the side of our desk or a program that's kind of something that we do, but it might not always be, though we say it might not always be completely central to our strategy. It might not be, it's an additive perhaps not a core. And though every credit union will say, are you kidding? I'm about people helping people. Absolutely. Of course you are. I'm just looking at the way that we execute it. Is it core to how you're making strategic decisions and strategic bets so that you can have purpose align with the P&L? So if you said, if we're executing our purpose and we're engaging with our members, that it will, that will impact the P&L. I think there's an absolute correlation that if you lead with purpose and member first engagement, you will see an absolute increase in the revenue of the organization. You'll see growth in market share, and you'll see growth within usage of your credit union, which then leads to additional product sales within the credit union.
And I think that's
ultimately, if they do it with us, but other than with somebody else, you're winning.
Yes, and I think that's really the overriding message here. To be a cooperative, we have to figure out ways to be able to fulfill our mission and to give back and to be part of people helping people. But we also have to have the resources to do that. And you talked about identification, fraud, the whole technology, what it's going to take just to keep up with the business. And I think that there'll be a tendency at this time in our lives to be looking at the margins and to be saying it's going to be so tight and our net worth is going to be impacted and all those things, that we'll see that, that need to go back to a very, lean environment, which I think we will. But if you drive efficiencies, as you've indicated, and you look at it overall holistically at the organization, what you're going to end up with is the opportunity to use the dollars and make it a cultural statement. So excellent point. All right, any final thoughts? I appreciate your time. I know you've been busy this week, so.
No, I'm so pleased to participate, and I think it's tough to make these strategic choices, and I think we all look in year, and we have to look at the performance metrics that we have to meet each year. But I think we need to keep our eye on the long game success of the credit union and things that we need to make. Investments that we need to make in our credit unions that will help the long game success of our members and the performance of the credit union are really important. I think there's a lot of examples in our industry of credit unions have done that, like Alliant, BECU. Some of the largest credit unions have really put so much emphasis on their technology and their infrastructure. But I think the key driver of that is really looking at member behavior and how they want to engage with you and prioritizing those decisions when you have limited resources. So looking at the long game and looking at member engagement and usage as the first places, rather than just looking at the existing financial performance of the credit union as the sole decider of how we make those choices. So it's all about the member, which is always how it's been for a credit union. So I think we'll be fine.
All about the member and also all about cooperation. So congratulations on co-op's role and all that. So, okay, my friend, thank you very much. We appreciate you, and we'll talk soon.